Thanks very much, Marie Lou, and TUMO. Thank you for hosting this event. The most interesting events in town are at the TUMO Center. Congratulations to the Golden Apricot Festival for another successful, 10th year. The Embassy is really pleased to be part of this. We participated the last 6 years, and we're very pleased to have helped sponsor a couple of events this year. But the main event is what you're about to see right now. Godfrey Reggio, world-renowned, famous director, is here with us, and thanks to the Golden Apricot Festival for inviting him. We were happy to play a part here. I won't introduce him. We want to hear from him. You don't want to hear from me. He's got a fascinating biography. He's got Roman Catholicism in there. He's got juvenile delinquency, and not himself, but working with juvenile delinquents, civil liberties, human rights, a whole series of areas where he has done some really important work. And now we're going to hear from him. So without further ado, Godfrey Reggio. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. And thanks to his wife, too. His wife is here with us today as
well. So, I hope that you can understand what I'm going to say. When I was 13 years old, and I think there might be some young people here, I decided to leave home and to pursue that which I was interested in. I had to convince my mother and father that that would be a good idea because they thought it was a terrible idea. And I must say that it's the best decision I ever made in my life. So all by way of saying to those of you that are younger than I, which I think is everybody here, whatever you think you can do or believe you can do, do it. Because boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. That's a quote from the great German philosopher, poet, Goethe. He's talking to you. He says, if there's something you wish to do, don't think about it. Leap and the net will appear. So I'm encouraging you to be risky. Okay, now, being in such a beautiful country, looking at the gorgeous mountains, the beautiful countryside, I want to talk to you a little bit about what the meaning of beauty is. Beauty is not just something, oh, you have a beautiful dress on, or your hair is beautiful, darling. Beauty comes from the Greek word kalos, means beauty. But kalos itself comes from the Greek word kalios, which means to provoke. Beauty is to provoke. So I give you an example. I want to come here today. I'd like to feel a little better, but I'm getting energy just by standing up in front of you. I want to come here today and roar like a lion. Let me tell you why. The mother lion, the story says, when the lions are born, they're born still. They don't have life. The mother roars at the baby lions in order to provoke them into life. So, you're not a baby lion, and I'm not a lion, but I'm going to try to provoke you today, because this is the nature of beauty, provocation. It's not just, oh, you have a pretty car, or I like your necklace. Real beauty. Look at the mountains here. These are provocations that can lead us somewhere. So I want to talk about beauty from the point of view of provocation. In my country, in the United States, there's a very famous rock and roller, always all kind of stuff. His name is Lou Reed. And he has a famous song that says, let's take a walk on the wild side. Okay? So as we talked about the lion, I'm going to talk about something pretty wild. Okay? I'm going to quote some people. If anyone wants to stop me and ask me for a further explanation, please do. But I want to quote a very important person that at some point you should check out. His name is Elias Canetti, and he's a Nobel laureate. And Elias Canetti, listen to my words very carefully, says all of a sudden, without noticing it, all humankind left reality. Whoa, now that's very heavy, okay? I'm sure you heard of Homer, the Homeric poems. If you haven't, check them out. You know, way before the time of Christ in Greece, Homer asks the question, which age is this, the sunset or the dawn? So I'm going to ask you that question too. Which age do we live in? Is it the beginning of something or the end of something? And this is a very important question. It's up for you to answer. So to start this now, I'm going to lodge an idea with you that I feel is very real. I want to tell you that I think not only the blind cannot see, not only the deaf cannot hear, that this is very big, that hidden in plain sight are things that we can't see. Okay? Let me explain why I'm saying that. While you may think that you see the world through your eyes, you actually see the world through your language. We see the world through language. Problem is, languages are disappearing. We are now approaching, 7 billion people on the planet? In the beginning of the 20th century, there were 1.7 billion people on the planet. You would think, and at the beginning of the 20th century, there were 30,000 languages and principal dialects, more or less. Today, how many languages do we have? We're approaching 4,000 languages and principal dialects. There's a relationship. The bigger we become, the more human animals we have on the planet, the less language we have. And that, to me, is a tragedy. If you lose your language, your mother tongue, where you come from, you lose your ability to see the world as you can see it. The way an Italian sees the world, the way a Russian sees the world, the way an Armenian, a Chinese, etc., is all different by virtue of our languages. But what I'm trying to say to you, to provoke you, is that your language, my language, and most all the languages of the civilized world, not the vernacular, not the simple world of ordinary people who are not involved with big power, who live out in the mountains. Forget those people for now. Our languages, the civilized languages, are, from my point of view, no longer describing the world in which you live. Now, if your language doesn't describe the world, then we're kind of in a very tough spot. And having said that, we see the world through language. All of our metaphors have somehow not allowed us to see what's actually happening. So Lao Tzu says, you know who Lao Tzu is. You can look him up in your library. He's a very famous Chinese philosopher. He says, in the time of maximum social crisis, the single most important thing we can do is to rename the world in which we live. This is your opportunity, not mine. I'm heading for the exit door sooner than later. You're just coming through the door. It's your opportunity to rename this world. I want to point out something. Maybe some of you heard this in the news. The other day, the Dalai Lama made a very important statement. I can't remember it all because someone only told it to me. I can't find it. But he said, we have enough successful people in the world now. Don't pursue success. Pursue storytelling. Pursue service. This is a big thing to hear from someone as important as him. So, having said that, renaming the world, wanting us to make service, I want to give you a view of two worlds that I think we live in simultaneously. The world, I'm going to have to give them names, and then I'm going to give characteristics to those worlds. I'm going to call one world old nature, and I'm going to call the other world new nature. Okay? And at the end, I'll try to make it as clear as I can. Old nature, its motto, its marching orders are divided we stand. Now that flies in the face of divided we stand. Worlds are held together through unity of some type. The unity of the old world is held together through diversity, through difference. How boring it would be to have one language, one bird, one weather, one pair of shoes, one song, one God. It's important to recognize that diversity is the pattern of the old world. And in that sense, I mean divided we stand. The new world I'm going to talk about, on the other hand, holds its unity together through this big word, homogenization, through making everything one. So in that world, its motto is united we stand, which is how most of us grew up. We have to be united. We don't want to be divided. I'm offering you another point of view on that. The world that we live in now is a world of homogenization. When I came to Yerevan just a few 7 years ago, I wrote a poem to myself called Walking to Yerevan. I'll show you. Everybody walking and going nowhere. I loved it. Where I live, I'm in New York right now, everybody's like really moving. So when I went out of the Golden Tulip for the first time, I kept bumping into people because my routine was on the fast track, if you get what I'm saying. Okay, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that the world of Yerevan, I think, is also changing. People walk faster now, that I've noticed. You might not notice that, but I'm a professional observer. I'm a voyeur. That's what I do. I observe the world around me. I observe that which we don't see because it's so normal, it's so regular. And I noticed, walking out towards the museum last night, people are walking faster, pulling those babies behind them. I noticed also that what I'm trying to say is that Yerevan is joining the world. To provoke you, I'm going to question that as something that may or may not be useful. So now I want to describe to you, I said old world, new world. I'm going to give you the characteristics, not all of them, but some of them, the difference between old world and new world. The old world is breathing. The new world is breathless. The old world has an horizon. The new world is horizonless. It has no horizon. The old world has seasons. We have in the new world software. The old world is real. The new world is virtual. The old world, the word is the principal medium. The new world, numbers, 0, 1, digital codes, are the language. The old world, everything is immediate. Everything is right there in front of you, immediate. The new world is through mediation. Television. You don't walk anywhere anymore. You get in a car. I could have never come to your country halfway around the world if I'd not taken a big machine, strapped myself in it. I didn't do it. The machine did it. I know this sounds provocative, but I want to continue. The old world enshrines mystery, believes in the power of mystery. The new world demands certainty. The old world tells stories. The new world has storage. The old world has remembrance. The new world has data. The old world has the sun himself. The new world has energy companies. Okay? One is the natural milieu, the natural environment. and the other, from my point of view, is the technological environment. And I want to talk a lot about technology and art, if you'll let me today. Plato said about this world in his last book, Timaeus, he said the world is indeed a living entity composed of soul and intelligence. He called it anima mundi. The very word anima, I want to try to push you to understand it. Do you know what anima means? It means breath.
Soul.
No? Soul. But soul. Yes. But more than that, breath. Ah is the breath in. Ni is holding the breath. Ma is exhalation of the breath. That which breathes has life. Anima mundi. So that's the old world, as far as I'm concerned. The new world is technomundi. The image of the old world is the land around you, as just what you can see in a very humble way around you. The mountain, the stream, the family, the village. The new world, what is it? What is its symbol? What do you see? The blue planet. The symbol of the new world is the blue planet. Now, I'm a filmmaker. I always want to know where the camera is. Where is the camera when you take the picture of the new world? It's off planet. It's off the planet. So, without being too heavy, this is personal for me, the new swastika, the new sign of totalitarianism, the new sign of control, conformity, of power, of violence, is itself the image of the blue planet, used by all churches, used by all environmental organizations, used by the United Nations, etc., etc. I'm suggesting to you that that is a symbol that portends the new world that's here, not coming. It's the world of technology. And what I want to say, since this is a technological institute and an art institute, please, these are just opinions. Opinions are easy. You can take them or leave them. But since I'm invited to give you an opinion to provoke you, I'm going to give you another point of view about technology. For me, it is the single most misunderstood subject on the planet. We labor under the illusion or the delusion that we use technology, that technology is neutral. One can use it for good, like in medicine, schooling. Look at this place. One can use it for bad, like in war, etc., etc. That's not, to me, that's a myth. It's called the myth of neutrality. This is going to push you a little bit, okay? We don't use technology from my point of view, we breathe it. It is as ubiquitous, as present as the air we breathe. Technology is not the gadget in your hand or all the gizmos around here. Technology is the new environment of life. Our environment is technological. Your life and mine, unless you live in the bush or way out in the mountains, is based on technology. If technology disappears, we are going to have a big problem. It is the environment of life itself. That's a big thing. Think about it. Technology not as something we use, but as the environment of life itself. So, we all are worried about the effect of technology on the environment, the effect of technology on war. For example, the effect of technology on war. From 1943 to 1945, all bets are off about war. 1 million people a month was slaughtered during that period because of the technology that we had. So, it's not that technology affects the world we're in, is that everything, from my point of view, is situated in technology. Technology is the new host of life. For those of you that are Catholic or Christian or however you call yourself, I was a monk, so I want to give you an example what I mean. I notice on some of your fingers you have rings, which is a sign probably of your unity with your spouse. It's probably a sign that you're married. That's a symbol. If that ring produced unity, you might try to get 6 or 7 of them on your finger, or you might cut off your finger. I don't know. That's up to you. A symbol does not produce. It only says this is a symbol of what we intend. However, if you're a Catholic, the highest form of magic is the sacrament. The sacrament. Do they call it sacrament in Armenia?
Yeah.
Yep. What is the sacrament? The sacrament produces what it signifies. Now that's magic. One has to have faith in this case to believe it. But I am saying anything, in other words, sacraments are not symbols. They produce what they signify. They create what they signify. And what I'm trying to say is that we live in anything we could have said about the divines, the gods of the past, of now, we can now say about technology. It is recreating the world in its own image and likeness. That's a big statement. It's recreating the world in its own image and likeness. For the few of you that maybe saw Koyaanisqatsi, I tried at least visually to give some hint, at least of what I feel. I was able, for the first time, to get an image of a microchip made for the first time in the 1970s in Brooklyn. And I knew that if I could get that, it was done with a very long, a very good photographic aspect so that you can see it. They're so small, your eyes can't perceive it. The microchip looks exactly like the city does from above. It is the same. It's that order of things. It's not this way and that way, the old way. It's everything on a grid because that's the most efficient way to make something happen. So I guess what I'm saying is that, and I would be careful, the truth of technology is becoming the truth. Its truth is the truth. That's provocative. Let me go on. Because you and I are human animals, or that's my point of view, we're so human and animal. We look like most of the other animals in our morpholic gender, like the gorilla, the ape, the lizard, the fish. Have you ever noticed they all have 2 eyes, they have a nose, mouth, they have organs inside? Is that by accident? I don't think so. I think those that are smarter than you will tell you that we become the environment we live in. The reason we have these kinds of aspects to our senses is that we are part of this environment. That gives us that look, that presence. We become the environment we live in. Our environment is on speed in rush hour, outrunning the future. So, if the environment radically changes, then those of us that live in the environment are going to radically change. It's who we are. We become the environment that we're part of. It's not something we pay attention to. It's something that happens. I was at a lecture that the Dalai Lama gave in Albuquerque, New Mexico, maybe 20 years ago, and after this big, beautiful speech, the woman, he said, "I'll take a few questions." In the front row, a woman jumped up and said, "Your Holiness, what is the single most important thing that I can pay attention to?" And he said one word, routine. Next question. Everybody was shocked. What do you mean, routine? He didn't explain it. What we do every day without question is who we become. We become the environment that we're in, and we become what we do. and that's called, habit, habituation, routine. It is more important, those things are more important to pay attention to than maybe all the other things we see on the headlines of the newspaper. We become what we do every day. We become that, okay? And since our environment is changing so much, we are becoming that environment. You have, me from the United States, Mr. Ambassador from the United States, your wife, my wife, we have more of it in our bodies because we're more of a technological society. But all of us have things in our physical environment, in our physical bodies now, that didn't exist in the natural environment a mere 150 years ago. They're part of who we are. We become that environment. Okay? In that sense, I could say to you that if you know what a cyborg is, have you heard of a cyborg? Okay, those are creatures of science fiction. I'm going to suggest to you that they're creatures of the fiction of science, and that me and you and all the rest of us are in an advanced state of being cyborg. Okay? That's challenging, I realize. So while technology, the environment, promises comfort, happiness, affluence, success, it could mean power, control, conformity. The Greeks tell us, or fate if you want. That's what technology is, our fate. But the Greeks say, maybe the Armenians say, no fate cannot be overcome. One overcomes fate through resistance, rebellion, or estrangement. Way before I'm talking about this, of course, Jesus said, eons ago, to be in the world but not of the world. Is that lip service, or did he have a point of view there to think about? So what I'm saying is, if we want to avoid that truth becoming the truth for us, then somehow we have to step outside of it. I know that's impossible. We can't do that. But I want to now quote a very important person for you who tells you how to do it. His name is Friedrich Nietzsche. You've heard of Nietzsche, okay? Maybe a very misunderstood dude, but for me, a very brilliant person. Listen to what he says. He says, we have art in order that we may not perish by the truth. Whoa. Now, what truth is he? He's not talking about truth as such. He's talking about the truth of this world. He was talking about the truth of the institutional church controlling people. He was talking about the truth of Europe, the truth of the philosophers. He was questioning that, and he said that truth can become a prison if it's not questioned. And the way we have art. Art is a language. It's a unique language to whoever performs it. It's a meta-language, like religion is a language, independent of your own language. It's called meta-languages. Art is a meta-language. So, since this is a technology and art academy or school or institution, not only do we want to talk about technology a little bit, I want to talk about art. And I'm going to suggest to you two different scenarios, two paths. I want to make the difference between art and the spoken word. Okay? The spoken word transmits meaning. That's its purpose, to give meaning. Art transmits meaningfulness. I give an example. If you went with your sweetie out to see the sunset tonight, you wouldn't ask her, gee, or him, you wouldn't say, gee, I wonder what the sunset meant tonight. Sunset means nothing. Can it be meaningful? That's what I'm trying to say. The sunset can be meaningful. So the word is about specific meaning. That's its purpose. And I said we see the world through the word, but we can also see the world through art. And art is not so much the meaning of something as giving you something meaningful. Let's take Da Vinci's Madonna. Nobody knows what that means. It's a mystery. Everybody's been talking about it. That's its power. Because fundamentally, art has no intrinsic meaning. The meaning is in the eye, the ear of the beholder, okay? Purpose of art, if I may quote Tolstoy, you'll check him out, you know who he is to inflict you with something, is to impress you with something. It's not to make you feel good and cuddly. It's to inflict you, to make an impression on you. I like to use the word to watermark a person. That's what art can do. Art is a very powerful medium to touch not the mind of the person who sees it, but actually the soul of the person who sees it. So, for me, the artist has an opportunity to be called to the heroic. To be artful today is to be heroic, because the artist must resist destiny. The artist, instead of flying the flag of Armenia or the United States, the artist flies the flag of her own shadow. This is what art is about. It doesn't have allegiance to dogma, to government. It's free. It's who we are. I was a monk for 14 years. I learned that the strongest form of prayer is not, God, help me get money. God, take my cancer away. God, give me success. That's a prayer of petition. It's the simplest prayer. But that's not the real prayer. The strongest prayer, just to make that connection, is the act of creativity itself. That is the strongest form of prayer that we can have. We are most like our Creator when we ourselves create. This is what prayer is, and this is what art is. So, I'm suggesting to you, please, and with all respect to the institution, you might wish to pursue the right to useful unemployment. You know what I mean by that? In other words, instead of the Dalai Lama saying we have enough successful people now, please go down, don't be successful anymore. We don't care about that. What he's saying is that you must do something beyond making a living. Most schools are to get you a job so you can have money, so you can make a living. Okay? Throw that out. Leap and the net will appear. Consider the right to useful unemployment. People don't employ artists very much. Now, if you're a technician and you want to get a job in the business as a sound person, I'm not putting that down, believe me. I'm just trying to provoke you to another point of view. How powerful art is. It's thunder, it's lightning, it's infliction. It's not a pretty picture on the wall. So, let me try to wrap up. I've been spitting all over the people on the front row. I want to pull that back now. And I want to say that there are two kinds of future. One is hopeless, and the other is hopeful. For me, the hopeless future is the rooted future, that which we do already. I know, for example, that, well, I won't say that. So, two kinds. The rooted future, that's who we are, okay? That's the institutions we're part of, and if you want to join that world, then you'll become in conformity with that world. And yes, you might have affluence, but it might not do anything for your soul. I'm talking about risking something. So to me, the hopeful future is the future of the uncreated future. This is your future to create, not the rooted future of the institutions that we're part of. If you can create, in other words, create your own world, rather than live in a world created by someone else, or some other thing that's not even human, like technology. So, I can continue now, or we can start asking a few questions to start with. Would you like some questions? Any questions?
Եթե հարցեր ունեք, բայց խնդրում եմ անպայման հարցերը միկրոֆոնով պետք է անենք, որ թարգմանություն գնա. There will be translation for you if the question will go. So
Okay, please. Well, what do I do?
Ինչ? Hold on.
What?
Technician will go. And we have to turn the microphone. Someone from students, please take the microphone and we will pass. Okay, there is a question, please.
My name is Mariam. I just wanted to ask, as you know, there are people who live without technology, like uncivilized tribes. And what do you think, which is the difference between them and us? And is their way of life is right? It is right to live?
Okay, I was listening to it in Armenian. So ask me again the question, please.
I wanted to ask, as you know, there are many people who live without technologies, like uncivilized tribes. And what is the difference between them, between their way of life and ours?
Well, they have those people that we call uncivilized have a handmade way of life. It's not standardized. Everything's not at right angles as we see in the global technological world. Like once the you know what a 2x4 is? It's a piece of building material. That's as important as the automobile. It changed all of architecture. It gave it a form that can be readily used anywhere, and it all ends up looking the same. So the difference of those people that are still alive, that I believe they're as affected by technology as the rest of us, by the way. Let's take the Yanomami in the Amazonia, a tribe deep in the jungle, in the Salva. They breathe the air that is technology. Their land is being taken away so that it can be put under either looking for gold or precious minerals or under agriculture. So they are disappearing as we speak. Their way of life, please, I'm not suggesting we go back to the cave, the teepee, or anything like that. That's not going to happen unless some catastrophe, and that could happen, would make it necessary. Okay, because we live in a very tenuous place. Remember, the ultimate argument of civilization is not the word, it's force, it's power, it's war. And the civilizational twins, and please, this is not me, you can see it if you study history, the twins of civilization are religion and war. They have become the ultimate decider of what's right and wrong. So, I don't think one can not live in a technological world, but I'm going to offer you a thought of a person who was a Nobel laureate of the United States. He's an immigrant from the Soviet Union. He was in the Gulag a little while. His name is Joseph Brodsky. Okay? Joseph Brodsky realized, very, very bright guy. He realized that he couldn't change his behavior just by thinking about it. So he raises the question that Marx raised, a very important question. I'll rephrase it for Marx because it's more philosophical the way he say it, but I'm going to give you my own interpretation. Marx asked the question, is it your behavior that determines your mind, or is it your mind that determines your behavior? And for 9 out of 8 of us, which is all of us plus one, we think it's our mind that determines our behavior. In fact, it is our behavior that determines our consciousness. Marx said, existence conditions consciousness. It's real. I mean, you don't have to be a Marxist to understand that. So, yes, so Brodsky understood that until he was able, through consciousness, to estrange himself from the behavior that he was doing, that he could never be free in his mind. So he decided to be in the world and not of it at the same time. In other words, things are not this or that, they're this and that. Things aren't black and white. Those are the mantras of fanatics. It's all white or it's all black. It's not that way. There are too many things that cross over. So we live in a world that is in fact this and that. Thank you.
Okay.
Anna Semaya. Ուզում եմ իմանալ ինչ եք կարծում, եթե այսօր տեխնոլոգիան այսքան զարգացած չլիներ, ինչպես կլինեինք մենք, աշխարհը, մարդու։
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I really don't know. It would be different, I can say that. As I said earlier, we're on speed in rush hour outrunning the future. And that's not just an opinion. I mean, we are on speed. We are like going at light speed. I'm now almost 74 years old, but I've lived almost 600 years in technological terms. You know what a difference between a second and a nanosecond is? We live to the beat of the computer. It is speeding everything up. Everything up. It's not deliberately making anything slower. It's making everything faster and more homogenized. So what would the world be without it? I can't really tell you, but you might be able to tell yourself by trying not to be as dependent on it as they want us all to be. It'll be an answer for you.
Hi, George. Next. Yep.
Could you explain what is metaphysics? Does it have any common thing with what you're trying to say now, what you're saying now?
Second, what did you say?
What is the metaphysics?
What is the metaphysics? Has it any common
Has it any common thing with what you're saying now?
But does metaphysics have something to do with it, or what? I don't understand.
With,
What is this?
you were describing like structuring. So the question, as I understand, is has metaphysics anything common with what your explanation is?
Oh, okay. Yes, because I feel, for myself, I feel that a person does not have the right to speak their words unless they can feel them, unless there's an authenticity to feeling. And I think that that's common to all people all over the planet. Otherwise, the words are hollow. They're called in Latin pro forma. They're just there for legalese. They don't have any weight. They're not anchored to the earth. One is anchored to the earth when one not only can speak the word, but can feel it. So we are sensate beings, all of us. So in that sense, we have a great commonality. But the place that you live will give you a different metaphysics from the place that I live, because the place is different. That's the beauty of the world. But we're living in a world now where we all want to go to New York or to Berlin or to Moscow, and we'll come back and see Yerevan a few centuries later. It's all here. Everything is here. That's the point, rather than running all over the world to go into those worlds. Your metaphysics is here in your community.
Okay, please. Միկրոֆոնը խնդրում եմ արագ ներկայացրեք։ Թող հարցը տա, հետո դες։
Ուզում եմ քիչ ֆիլմից խոսալ, երիտասարդ։ Լինում ունենք զգացողություններ, որ հանդիսատեսը ոնց որ հայտնվել է համակարգչի մեջ կամ էկրանի հակառակ կողմում, ու իրական կյանքը էկրանի ներսում է։ Երբ որ կենթանի, այսինքն երբ որ ես ինձ զգում եմ կենթանի արդեն հանդիսատես ոչ թե մեկը ում նայում է, ժամանակ աշխարհը դատարկ էր, այդ պատմությունը որտեղ մարդ գոյություն չուներ, այսինքն մենակությունն է ես զգում, որ մենակ ես աշխարհում։ Այդ ու ուզում եմ հարցնեմ, այդ հարաբերության ժամանակ ոնց որ Աստված ջնջվում է, այսինքն վերանում է, գոնե այն Աստված, ինչ մեզ դարերով կամ խոսքի կամ տեքստի միջոցով փորձել է նավյաձ վճանել, որ այդ Աստծո այդ գաղափարը ոնց այդտեղ ոնց որ այդ Աստվածը վերանում է։
Well, yes, I said a while ago that anything we could have said about the divines or God in the past, we can now say about technology. It's miracle macro. It saves lives. It extends lives. It makes people's standard of living higher. All of those things, please. So it's a serious subject. It does all of that, but at what price? At what price does it do it? It takes your language away. For example, we all know, you know that, because we are human animals, light from the sun is what causes us to grow or maturate. It is light that brings us the energy of our organic bodies. But all of us, myself included, have another kind of light that is as present to us as the sun. It's the light of the computer screen. It's the light of television. It's the light of the new world. And since light changes who we are, we grow by light. If we had no light, we would shrivel up and die. When you sit in front of a screen for 8-10 hours a day, it's not just what's in your head, it's what's physically happening through the light that emanates, be it a cathode ray tube in the past or now a digital screen. It's all about the light. And all of us are hooked into that light. So, it's a worrisome subject.
Մի հարցել եւ վերջը հետեւ ուզում եմ շատ ճիշտ ժամանակին վերջացնել, քանի որ պարոն Godfrey Reggio-ն մեծ ջանք տրամադրեց, որ կարողանա այսօր գա Խնդրեմ, վերջի հարցը։
Այսպեսի մի հարց կցանկանանք։ Այսօր աշխարհը ոնց որ բաժանվել է երկու մասի, մեկը մեծ աշխարհն է, իսկ մյուսը արտաքին իրական աշխարհն է։ Այսինքն մի հատ համոզմունք եմ դրել, բերեք ցանկանայի իմանալ դուք եք հավատում, որ դա իրականն է։ Ասենք որ կգա մի օր, որ արտաքին աշխարհը կդադարի զարգանալ, կսկսի զարգանալ մենակ այդ ներսի մեդիա աշխարհը, քանի որ հիմա մարդը երկու աշխարհների կարիքը զգում է միաժամանակ հավասար ու հավատում եք որ կգա մի ժամանակ որ մեդիայի կարիքը միայն կզգացվի ու այլ չի զարգանա արտաքին աշխարհը։ Կապրենք միայն մեդիայով։
Well, you're very, very good question. I agree with you because I indicated as much. I said there's the real world and the virtual world. Let's take animals, for example. You can study, don't take my word for it, look it up in your dictionary or in your research here at the school. The animal kingdom is at a graph that's going right like this. It's disappearing from the planet. Disappearing through agribusiness, through nation-state borders, through greed. The animals have no place to live. They depend on the land to live. Like native peoples, vernacular peoples, people of simplicity, their life is based in the land that they live in. If you take the land away, you take their soul away. In the case of the animals, you take their life away. So we have so many endangered species of animals right now, all for the sake of the pursuit of our technological happiness. If we think war is bad, genocide, need I speak to you about that? Those are terrible things. To me, to end this up, the most extraordinary thing we face is the war of ordinary daily living. That which is so present we don't see. The price we pay for that, the price we pay to keep our food technologically on our tables and our lights on and our planes and going faster and faster and faster, all of that is the pursuit of our technological happiness at the expense of the planet and the other creatures that we live here with. Please. Well, You're asking maybe the wrong person, but I'll give an effort. The stories I tell are not stories to be told, they're stories to behold. And the reason I do that is my love of language. Because I feel our language no longer describes the world, I'm trying to tell a whole story through the visual to offer you the power of one word again. Let me give you an example. Napoleon says, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I'm going to turn it on its head. 1,000 pictures can offer you the power of one word. That's how I proceed with storytelling. So,
Thank you very much.
I didn't answer your question.
It's really big honor for us that Mr. Reggio is here today with all of his incredible words that he brought to us. In 2006, it was the first time when we met, and there was a wonderful lecture at the National Gallery, and when I hear that Mr. Reggio is coming again, I just insist that we should have you come here and have this wonderful lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. And I agree. And I agree.
And I want to say something. I don't have the impression that you engage technology. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Actually,
I'm not against
you use technology. I don't want to give the wrong impression to our students.
Right.
And then you use technology in your films.
Yes.
Actually, you use a camera, which
I use the highest form of technology in cinematic arts.
Yes. So I want you to really go on a little bit. I'm sorry, Alec. I know you pumped you, but can you go on a little bit in storytelling and about the technology? Because I don't want to leave these kids with the. Maybe I had a little bit of. I'm confused a little bit. I want to hear it again about your opinion about technology.
No, well, see, look. Let me just say something. Very seldom will you hear someone stand up and really bring a real question to technology, because 9 out of 8 people are celebrating it. They want to get as much of it as they can. Okay? So if I come, that's why I started out saying my mission here was a provocation. Not to stop you. Look, I use technology all the time. When in Rome, do as the Romans. If you have a forest fire out on the mountain and you can't stop it, what do? You build a fire that will help stop it. Okay? So I'm not trying to have a purity society and say we can't. I mean, it's not. You can't escape it. If I want to commune with people in other places, I have to use technology. I'm willing to accept that contradiction, not back away anything from what I told you, but also to embrace that as well. Because as I said, life is this and that. And I think if you're 12 years old or 73 years old, it's good to be provoked to something that you're not used to hearing. It might shake you up a little bit. And that's what I'm not trying to say, I mean, this is a technological institute. Okay? So I'm not saying let's get the fires now and we'll burn down the building. It's not what I'm saying. I'm not a Luddite in that sense. You know what a Luddite is, okay? I'm just saying that faiths unquestioned become our prisons. If you want to tell a story, and what I mean by that, when you have a faith and it's not questioned, it can become the prison you live in, okay? It can be that. Everything should be questioned. There's nothing wrong with that, and that includes technology as well. As far as telling stories, my stories are all told with, as I said, the highest form of technology. And because I don't know how else to do it. If I could do it without it, then I would be glad to, but nobody would hear it. And I can't just say, watch the film. Here it is. See it? No. Gotta have a technology. So I'm only trying to point out the complexity of the world we live in. It's not black and white. It's not this or that. It's not good or bad. It's a combination of all kinds of things. And I say this not to discourage you, but to encourage you to create your own world in whatever medium you're working in, be it storytelling, painting, technology, whatever it happens to be. Don't just do it to get the job and do what the boss tells you, because the boss is probably a corporation that's only interested in making money, with all respect. We're looking for artists, and your country, more than many others, has a disproportionate number of artists, people with deep souls who can express themselves to the world. So we're all looking to see what comes out of this center. And for that, I wish you very well. Thank you very much.
I also would like to thank the Golden Apricot Film Festival and the US Embassy for supporting this event. Thank you very much.